This week on the Steel Report.
I normally don't get very nervous for races, but I was really nervous leading up to it.
An enormous field, more than double the men's field.
Today you're going to meet a Cedar Valley woman who qualified and ran the U.S. Women's Olympic Marathon trials earlier this year. And we'll also talk with KWWO Sports Director Rick Coleman about our very unusual fall sports scene. And our program begins right now.
Now from KWWL, this is the Steel Report.
And welcome to this week's edition of the Steel Report, as today we begin with the story of elite marathon runner Samantha Wingert of Cedar Falls. Samantha qualified for the 2020 U.S. Women's Olympic Marathon Team Trials and then ran the marathon trials in Atlanta back in February, just ahead of the pandemic. This is her story. Shoes on the pavement make a pretty sweet sound to an elite marathon runner like Samantha Wingert of Cedar Falls. This 33-year-old wife and mother of two ran her first marathon just 5 years ago, but her times are so fast, she quickly moved into the elite category, qualifying for the Olympic trials when she finished 13th overall at the annual Grandma's Marathon in Duluth, Minnesota. And then the Olympic trials race this past February in Atlanta. So tell me what it was like to run the women's marathon trial and have your family there. So what was going through your mind that day?
I normally don't get very nervous for races, but I was really nervous leading up to it. The course was very hilly. I was hearing commentators or people who were previewing the course saying this is going to be like a marathon cross-country course. It's going to be like running 28 or 29 miles instead of the normal 26.2. So I was kind of nervous leading up to the race.
Go Sam!
Honestly, it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining. It was really windy, very challenging, but having my family there, and my mom and dad came, my in-laws came. I had a friend and her husband. My friend was really pregnant at the time and she still made the trip. That meant everything to me. It just kind of eased all my worries and my nerves when I got to the line, and it was just an incredible experience. I think even though I hit the pain train late in the race and it hit me hard, I was still smiling throughout the whole race because it was just really cool to be surrounded by that group of women, that many cheering fans, and then so many people's family members and friends that just came to cheer them on.
And a month later, you would not have been running, probably.
2 weeks later,
Yeah,
I feel like.
Would have been canceled.
Yeah, it's just crazy how fast things changed.
You don't consider yourself an elite runner, though you are, because you were one of what? How many Iowans, current Iowans, who qualified for the Olympic Women's Marathon Trial?
I think it was just two of us. The other runner her name is Jen Van Otterloo, and she lives in Sioux Center, Iowa. And then I was the other one. We have a couple Iowa natives who have since moved elsewhere and were at the time actually pursuing a professional career in running. But we were the only two out of Iowa who had qualified for the Olympic trials for this past cycle.
Tell me your best time, because it's pretty phenomenal for as little running as you've really done.
Yeah, my best time was in 2018 at Grandma's Marathon. It was 2 hours and 41 minutes, and I think 48 seconds or 52, depending on if it was gun time or chip time. But yeah, upper 2:41.
What is considered in the country today elite marathon time for women?
To get entry into races, pretty much like a sub 3-hour marathon is considered a pretty good marathon, or we call it sub-elite. The professional runners are obviously on a whole other level. So that's why sometimes I don't consider myself an elite runner. But I would say the 3-hour barrier is considered a sub-elite or an elite runner.
On this particular morning, the sun is barely up, but Samantha is already out training hard, running Grand Boulevard in Cedar Falls. She won the Des Moines IMT Half Marathon in 2018 and then qualified for and ran the prestigious Boston Marathon just last year in 2019. Marathon training means you have to put in the time. And remember, Samantha did that while working and also running the Wingert household of her husband and two young children, Elin and Joey. Her husband is Brian Wingert, co-owner of Structure Real Estate and a former star place kicker for the University of Northern Iowa Panthers.
Wingert out of a Corey Hickey hole, tries to tie it, and he does.
Brian made an incredible school record 60 field goals and 151 points after touchdown during his 4 years playing for Mark Farley at UNI. And in 2006, Brian broke the Panthers' all-time scoring record of 331 points and, of course, was a star on the Panthers' national FCS runner-up team in 2005.
We met in high school, and she's been an athlete from the time I met her, and it was exciting for me to watch her, and she's always said it was fun to watch me, and so we kind of enjoy that, and we just hope that someday we get to watch our kids do the same thing.
Tell me a little bit about the background, because you were not always an elite runner, right?
Right, and I still don't consider myself an elite runner, but I was never running at any sort of competitive level post-college. So I graduated from Cedar Falls. I ran track and cross country there. I didn't run cross country until my junior year, and had some success there, and then decided not to pursue it in college, but randomly my junior year, I decided to...
Now can I get off?
You can get off with Dad, that's fine. But never was a state champion, was an all-stater in cross country. So I ran well and was recruited collegiately, but never took it so seriously where it was a top
Are we
level
on camera right
focus.
now?
Yes. So anyway, I went to Northern Iowa, and then randomly my junior year decided that I was going to run cross country. So ran just one cross country season very randomly, and then that was really it. So I've always run. Like I said, I haven't really run competitively until I started really focusing on it, which was after Elin was born. Elin was born in August of 2013. So after she was born, I just kind of wanted to get back in shape, and she was a challenging baby for us. She didn't sleep ever. You gotta stay still, okay? She didn't sleep ever, and so running was kind of an outlet and like a 1 hour escape that I could do. So I started doing that, and then contacted Scott Gall, the owner of the Runner's Flat.
Cedar Falls Tigers, go Tigers.
I know Sarah and I'm friends with her, and he does coaching, a lot of coaching. And so I contacted him and asked him if he would coach me just to do a half marathon. So he coached me to do a half marathon park to park, and I ran really well on that one. And at that time, social media was kind of picking up. Instagram was starting to be a thing. And so I noticed a lot of moms who are about my age who were pursuing marathons and running at a pretty high level. And my times were pretty comparable to them. So I kind of thought, well, if they can do it and they have a family, then maybe that's something that's worth pursuing for me, and it sounds fun. So after running that half marathon, I just decided to try the marathon. And so that following summer, Scott coached me, and I ran in Duluth, Minnesota, and ran a great first marathon, and then kind of have been doing it on and off since. We had Joey, obviously, so I had to take some time off in between there. But
You heard Samantha mention Scott Gall. Scott is Samantha's coach and the boys cross-country coach at Cedar Falls High School. Scott and his wife Sarah, the former Sarah Gray, are the owners of the Runner's Flat in downtown Cedar Falls. It's a popular shoe and clothing store for area runners and athletes, and both Scott and Sarah are accomplished distance runners themselves.
Way to go, Sarah! Way to swing 'em!
Sarah is one of Iowa's all-time greatest distance runners.
I mean, I just have to throw my times out. I know I'm in great shape to do it at state, so I just have to. It's the big meet that I'm more concentrating more on.
That's very great now.
She was a 3-time state champion, a 3-time Drake Relays champion for Cedar Falls High School, and Sarah is in the Iowa High School Girls Track Hall of Fame. While Sarah is a distance runner, she's never run a marathon.
What do you see in Samantha that maybe you saw in yourself that drives her?
I do see a lot of similarities in the two of us, but I think overall she just really, really enjoys running, and she enjoys to train. So I think out of that, just having that joy for running and actually enjoying the sport, I think will help. And I see that really in both of us, so I think that can take her really far.
And you're not a marathon runner yourself. You know that the marathon is the ultimate mental and physical challenge, isn't it?
It's a long time to stay mentally focused, and I think I think there comes with running a marathon and learning how to stay mentally engaged that whole time. But I think that's something that you really have to work on and really enjoy what you're doing.
What drives her, do you think?
I would think what I enjoy about Samantha is that I think what drives her is her inner self. Instead of feeling like she has to do it for other people, I think she's found a really good groove where she's just trying to see how fast she can get, on her own accord, to kind of just drive her own limits. And I think if, as individuals, we could all do that in life and in every endeavor we have, things would be more enjoyable for us. So I think she's really found enjoyment in running, and with that, I think she just likes to see how fast she can get. And, she's getting pretty fast.
And she wants to get faster, yeah. So she said she doesn't consider herself an elite runner. Would you say she's an elite runner? She qualified.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I mean, she ran the elite at Boston.
Yeah. For anyone to qualify for the Olympic trials, I would say that you're an elite runner. Obviously there's levels of elite, and you have people going to the Olympics and things like that. And I think, that's a small percentage of people that ever qualify for an Olympic trials in any country.
So your goal is to lower your time of 2:41.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of training. So how do you balance the family life with your husband and the 2 children, and then getting out there and putting in the miles that are absolutely necessary to lower your time?
Yeah. So this isn't something that you have to do over the course of just a couple weeks. It takes years to really build up your training, like and I couldn't do it without the support of my family. My family are huge in allowing me to achieve goals that I have. So Brian, for instance, on Saturdays when I try to do the long run, him and the kids have established a routine where they go to Icon Donuts or Sidecar, and he gets coffee and they get donuts, and that's sort of a fun thing that they do, but it also allows me to get out the door and get my long run in, which takes some time, obviously. So they're a huge part of that. And then really supportive of the community too. We are so lucky in the community that we have. We have a lot of people who, of all different backgrounds and running levels, come together and really support each other and encourage each other. So they're also a huge motivating factor for me and help me kind of get out the door and do my training even when I don't really want to.
It's kind of whenever she can fit it in. I try to, be as available as I can. My job's pretty flexible. If she wakes up and, she's had a bad night of sleep and she was planning on running at 5 o'clock in the morning, there's just some days where that doesn't happen. So I try to give and, be available as I can to let her run when her body lets her run and that kind of stuff. And she mentioned our Saturday mornings. Those are kind of a routine for us and our family. And, she supports me while I'm at work and weekends and evenings and early mornings, and so it's a really good give and take that we've got in that situation.
How difficult has it been, because there are no races right now to run?
Yeah, there are no races and not a whole lot of motivating factors right now, and just with COVID in general, it's flipped everyone's life upside down, so we've really had to adjust with when the kids, their school got canceled and being at home and trying to homeschool and balance all that didn't really leave much of an avenue to pursue running. But right now I'm just, trying to adjust to how life is right now and get the kids back in school, and then maybe next spring we'll have a more consistent routine and races will be back on the calendar. So I'm just kind of running for fun right now. I have thrown out the idea of a 50K at the end of October, which that'll be interesting, but just to mix it up a little different than a road race. Trail races are so much more laid back than road races, so that would just be a for fun thing.
I just think that it's been really tough for her to get her motivation and her routine and her, just the desire to do it, just because it's hard when there's nothing to train for. But it's still, the amount of miles she runs per week is just still so impressive with nothing to train for, and so it's inspiring to see her work for a goal and achieve it. I'm really proud of her.
Her goal is to get faster. How fast can she get, and how can she do that when there aren't really races? She has to train on her own by herself.
Yeah, she's finding some fun stuff. I think she's going to look at a couple trail races and maybe just change things up enough to have some variety. And sometimes I think people are surprised you do that, and all of a sudden training goes a little better over a cycle, or you have a little variety and it keeps you healthy mentally and physically. So, you know, I like to think that it's kind of untapped potential, and I wouldn't throw any times, put any pressure on her, but she can continue to get faster.
Running's a gift. I'm glad and thankful I'm even able to do it. So to be able to feel that pain sometimes is a blessing. So turning that negative into a positive, I think about that a lot of times too. And then also, you know, just thinking about your goals that you have, that it's going to hurt. You've run several marathons, you know that it hurts at some point. So you really have to welcome it and just kind of train yourself to push through it by being positive.
You know, Samantha mentioned there really haven't been any races to run lately, but there is one on the schedule coming up next Saturday, September 12th. It will start in downtown Cedar Falls, and we've covered it before. It's the Scott Starrett Memorial Race Day on Saturday, September 12th. It is still on the schedule right now, and of course it's in memory of Scott Starrett, the former longtime Cedar Falls Police Reserve officer who lost his battle with cancer. There's going to be a 5K this year and a 10K in addition to the half marathon. Now, last year's half marathon winner was Samantha Wingert. In fact, here's a great photograph of Samantha way out in front of the field. And I want to thank Cedar Falls' new police chief, Craig Birdie, for sending me that great picture. And also, here's the webpage you can go to register for the Scott Starrett Memorial Races next Saturday, September 12th. So once again, thanks to the Wingert family, also Scott and Sarah Gall, for taking time to be a part of this week's show. And coming up next, the enduring popularity of KWWO's Friday night football program, Friday Night Heroes, plus our very unusual fall sports scene. That's coming up.
This is Friday Night Heroes, presented by Rolling Ford in Shell Rock.
And that, of course, the very familiar sights and sounds of our very popular KWWO Friday Night Football show. We call it Friday Night Heroes, and it's been around. Sports Director Rick Coleman, you've been around a long time.
I have been.
The show
I think the show has been around about 25 years.
It came out a little. We started our show, I think, a little bit before the book came out about Friday the Night popularity Lights. Of Texas high school football. It's so enormous down there, Friday Night Lights, and then we started calling our show Friday Night Heroes a long time ago. But this particular season that we're going through is something like we have never seen before. Even you were talking about just your scheduling for the Friday night games.
You know, I set a schedule at the very beginning of the week, Monday, but it's a soft schedule, and I tell people that. I usually put it in pencil because I could erase it because of the COVID-19 pandemic could wipe out a game and cancel it because a player or coach or somebody tests positive.
Yeah, just like we saw with just this past Friday night, the defending state champions, always tough in 8-man football, Don Bosco Dons. Their game with Dunkerton had to be canceled. I know they did hold a scrimmage, I think, over at the field, but it's not like having a regular season game because a player on the other team apparently did have COVID-19 or at least came in contact with somebody. We don't know all the circumstances because that's privileged information, but that really messed up that schedule right there, didn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. Iowa City Regina was going to begin its season with a game against Dyersville Beckman, but a coach and a player from Beckman tested positive. That game was canceled. And then Iowa City Regina, a Class A team this year, had to go out looking for an opponent and found a 4A competitor in Pleasant Valley, and that was a tough task. But, you know, that's what teams have to do to keep this season going.
The popularity of that program and the familiar song, I'm not even sure where that came from. I think it came from our music bank that we actually purchase on a monthly basis from what used to be called Killer Tracks. It combined with another program.
I think it was a former director by the name of Nick Keeker.
Nick Keeker came up with it.
It was very catchy, and it was one that, you know, we play it in the summer times in anticipation of the football season coming up. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of those songs that get you in the mood for football.
And it's so familiar with our Friday Night Heroes football program, too. That's the thing. So why the popularity, do you think? And we do get criticized sometimes for calling them Friday Night Heroes. Don't get too upset about that. We understand we're not comparing them to military or first responders or police or law enforcement. It's just kind of a fun thing. You know, Friday Night Heroes, everybody loves high school football, or most people like high school football. It's popular though, isn't it?
It is. The show is popular, and mainly because football is popular in these smaller Iowa towns, or even the bigger cities. But, you know, I'm calling Waterloo, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City bigger cities. But you go to a smaller town on a Friday night, and they said that those are the days you could probably rob that town because everyone's at the stadium. Exactly.
Everybody's at the game because, yeah, I mean, everything revolves around what's happening at the school. Because that's the heart of the community, along with the local churches, of course. But high school football has always been big. Volleyball is huge. Now, we were talking about volleyball highlights. Remember, I've seen you've had quite a number of volleyball highlights already, and the girls are, you know, they're excited. They're hugging each other after points, and we're not knocking that. We're just saying, we wonder where that's going to lead. You know,
I know, exactly.
They're not at risk as much as their teachers or their staff or older people like me. But
what I've noticed, at least in the Cedar Valley, they're also using the voucher system. So they're trying to limit the number of fans that are actually in the gym. And even before that, they had the social distancing measures in place, and also the masks. Fans had to wear the mask the entire match. So they're doing things to mitigate a lot of the issues.
Got to take a short break here with Rick Coleman, our sports director, coming back to talk more about sports and on our unusual fall in just a moment. So it's really the most unusual season we've seen, and to not have UNI football in the Dome and Kinnick Stadium yet. We hope something will happen. They'll be able to get that season in some way before it's all over, said and done. But wow, that's strange.
I know. I've been doing sports for about 30 years, and so this is so totally different for me, Ron. I mean, to navigate a fall with the limited things that we have to cover, you know, in terms of high school athletics as well as collegiate. And it's strange. I love to talk with the coaches and players.
Right.
I love to go out and, I mean, you know, you have a relationship over the years with these coaches, and now it's kind of been put on the back burner.
And I noticed the Big Ten is still talking a little bit about trying to get that season in, but there's a certain date they have to reach if they want to be in the national running, right?
October 3rd is that date, which is a month from now. And if they don't, they aren't able to enter the national playoff competition. So if they want to get something done this season, they've got to get it done within the next 4 weeks.
I noticed that the Iowa State president, Dr. Wendy Winterstein, kind of got involved the other day, and they reversed that 25,000 fans down to 0. I mean, Jack Trice Stadium will be empty next Saturday when the Cyclones play. Now, it will be on television on ESPN, so people can watch it, but that is so strange. And then on the other side, the University of Iowa president and then 2 other schools' presidents are voting for Big Ten football, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And even if they wanted to get that vote reversed, if they decided, you know, the next couple of weeks, well, let's have a revote, they would have to have a lot of a change in that vote result. You know, I mean, it was 11-3, so it was kind of a dominating vote in favor of not having a fall sports.
So, Rick, as we look ahead, what do you see in the crystal ball? Is there any way to determine?
Tomorrow, you mean? Because it's kind of hard to determine long range because COVID-19 stands in the way of everything. It affects everything. And so unless we feel comfortable living with the disease or if there's a cure for it on the horizon, it's hard to predict what's going to go on. And because no one wants to be at fault if something terrible happens, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, the possibilities of lawsuits and things like that are always terrifying to organizations and schools and businesses.
Yeah, nobody wants to be put at risk or put themselves at risk.
Yeah, so it's an unusual situation. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're just going to keep kind of playing like the games are out there. And because Friday night, we're going to continue with our show as long as we can, because the excitement is still there, although it's an unusual look to
and it was fun that first Friday night.
Great. It was really great.
And the atmosphere, you know, there were more fans in the stands at that time than will be in the future in some places, but you know, it's still there. It's just not as intense as we would like.
And of course, you don't see the behind the scenes situation that Rick and I do on a Friday night. This show is being put together literally as we're on the air, isn't it? There are games and video from highlights that have yet to come in, that are coming in just seconds before literally we're out here on the set.
And I'll tell you, Ron loves the stress of those seconds.
I do.
Although you helped me out the first week by getting yours in
right.
a very timely fashion, but Ron likes to play it to the wire.
We're making changes all the time. Like I was supposed to go later in the show on the first night. Rick moved me up a little earlier because someone else wasn't quite ready. It's a house of cards that really could fall at any time. But we've been very lucky because we got some really talented directors and people around this KWWL studio that keep that show looking really fancy and really nice. And that's why we really appreciate
we get an
your
adrenaline
support.
rush. I mean,
we really do,
seriously.
yeah. It's really fun. All right, that's it for this week on the Steel Report. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll be back here next week with another edition.